What's going on, guys? Welcome back to NolanTCG, and we are back here today for another deck profile, and this time it's for dinosaurs. So dinosaurs is likely going to be the deck that I go with and take through to WCQ. Enjoying it quite a lot. Yes, the deck does brick, and that's the way dinosaurs is. You can consider changing this list up and going for a blind second build if you do want to cut some of the garnets and make the deck a little bit more efficient. But overall, I've gone for a going first build, not necessarily maximizing on outer gates, but trying to have things as mixed on the side of build a board versus have some negates to kind of go with. Also having some kind of back and forth to throw at your opponent for going second as well. You'll understand when we get through the list, but that's kind of my thought patterns behind everything, is that I've built a going first list that does have the ability and some cards in it that give you that bit of flex for going second. But before we do get started on this one, as always, please do remember to drop down below and hit that subscribe button if you are new here, because we are always happy to have new people to the channel. And let's get on into this deck profile. Before we do get started on this one, though, it is brought to you, of course, by yourplaymat.com, who got us our beautiful NolanTCG Extra Deck sleeves. These are available on yourplaymat.com, as well as you can get custom sleeves and custom playmats, so whatever you need for the current format. There is an affiliate link in the description down below that does get you a little bit of a discount on your order. Also, enter the code NOLAN10YP for 10% off your order. Also kicks back a little bit to the channel, so everything will be very much appreciated. If you're shopping there, you're getting custom sleeves, custom playmats down. Make sure to enter our code at checkout. But let's get on into this deck profile. Okay, so starting us off, we have our Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, of course. We have just 2 copies of that. No reason to ever play 3 of this. Playing 1 can kind of get you in some awkward situations, so of course we start off with our 2 copies. Then our primary summon for the deck. So we've got our 3 copies of Soul Eating Oviraptor. Again, relatively standard. If you're not playing those ratios in dinos, you're not 100% sure what you're doing. Hopefully you're mixing it with another engine that makes it more consistent. In fact, comment down below if you are doing that, because I'd be really interested to see what it looks like. Then we have our Animadorned Archosaur following up after that. This card, a whole lot more valuable nowadays than what it used to be. Yes, if you play it at 1 and you draw it, it's bad. That's the reason why I'm playing it at 2. But yeah, this card has become very useful with other stuff that we're playing. Spoilers, I'm sure you figured it out already though. We then, of course, have our babies. So we're playing a 5 baby ratio. So 3 baby Cerosaurus into 2 Pterodon. Yeah, you can play this at 6. I would not play this at 4. There's too many things that require you to draw a baby to not be, I guess, maximizing on your opportunities to do it without going overboard. I found 5 was a good ratio, considering you have 8 different ways to get to baby. Or sorry, no, 11 different ways to get to baby. So if you draw multiple of those ways, you're fine. You have full combo. Then we have our one-offs. Yes, I am only playing the 1 copy of Xenometeorus. I just don't necessarily like hard opening this card. Yes, it would be good to then have the option to search the vanilla instead off of the ground Xeno, but yeah, I found when I was playing it at 2, it got quite bricky where I've opened up both. Yes, I had a 3rd option to actually search, but there are other options you can search, like Scrap Raptor, so there's not necessarily the need to always play the Xenometeorus at 2. I find 1 is very good for me. Then we have our other one-offs. We got the 1 copy of Miscellaneousaurus, of course, it's at 1, so we're playing 1. 1 copy of Giant Rex, because good card, it loops, it's good. And then, lastly, our vanilla of choice is 1 copy of Tomosaurus. I am choosing not to play Frostosaurus or one of the other 6 options. Me and Andrew have been doing a bit of testing and going back and forth on this. I'm playing the Tomosaurus because in the hands where you brick really badly, you can at least still get to something off the Tomosaurus. It makes your ability to go into Savage a lot easier in the openings where you don't necessarily need the normal summon. If you open the ground Xeno, it's really good. Yeah, there are a few different reasons why we're playing this. Also, Earth. That's one of the other benefits this card has over Frostosaurus, that if you open it, it's at least an Earth for your Lithosagem package. Again, spoilers, we're playing that. There are some 6 Earth options that you can play. Yes, they don't maximize on the amount of damage that you can put out, but I guess that's the main reason why you would play the Frostosaurus. But yeah, we're just playing the 1 vanilla in this build. It's the Tomosaurus. It's a 2. Being able to normal summon it helps a lot in the grind game. There was too many times where I was opening the Frostosaurus and just not being able to summon it. That's the main reason why we're going through to the Tomosaurus. Then we have our Scrap package after that. So we've got 1 copy of Scrap. No, that's 2 copies of Scrap. Again, same reason as to striking a complete blank here. The Animadorned Archosaur. You want to play 2 copies of it because you don't want to be stuck with none in your deck. But at the same time, opening it's not that bad. You have other different lines that you can play. If you necessarily draw one, it's not the worst thing in the world. We then, of course, have our 1 copy of Scrap Chimera that comes through after that for the whole package. Then we have, I guess, the last card for our Dino monster line, and that's our Lithosasm. I mentioned we're playing Lithosasm, choosing to just play 1 because we have some other options in the deck that we need to have space for, which is why we are so slim on this engine. And that brings into those cards, and that's hand traps, because in this deck, they are all searchable. So we have 3 copies of Ash, simply because I play against a lot of branded, so this card's necessarily has to be in this deck always at 3. You can mix and match and chain this out for other things. If anything, I would cut 1 to 2 copies of Ash to pad out your Dino packages and things like that if you want to go all in for going first. But there are other cards that you can cut. We do also have these cards. So we're playing 1 copy of Ghost Spell and 1 copy of Ghost Ogre in this deck. I'll explain to it when we get to the extra deck as to why we're playing these 2 at 1. It's because everything here is searchable, and I'm sure you have now figured out what I'm talking about. Then we go into our spells. So we've got our 3 copies of Ground Zeno, of course, the new search spell. I use this card to search the vanilla quite a lot, actually. The Xenometeorus, I find, is good. The lock gets you out of certain things, which can be problematic. But making the fusion monster in this deck with the UCT pop and it coming back and getting you extra pops and the adds back make the deck a lot more resilient, I've found, to getting blown out by board breakers. And that's the main reason why I prefer to search the vanilla and why I'm only playing the one Xenometeorus. But there are situations where I search the Zeno. You get into other things like Baron and things like that, which makes things cute. But yeah, there's multiple different ways you can go in this deck. And realistically, making your end boards the way you like them to make them is probably the best way to go. There's no right way to do things. You just end on different interruptions in different ways. Then we, of course, have 3 Fossil Dig. Again, it's every card in the deck, so why would you not play it at 3? 2 copies of Double Evo Pill. If you draw one, you want to have one that you're able to search. Then we have our Diagram package. 1 Diagram, 1 Terraforming. So that gives us a 1-1-1 ratio on the Lithosasm package. The only one that's necessarily bad to draw both in the same hand is Diagram Litho, because then you can't activate the Diagram. But if you open Diagram Terraforming, you can put the Terraforming if you don't have a baby. And yeah, you run fine. Then we have our other spells. So we've got 1 copy of Call by the Grave. There is a lot of things you don't get a hit with, so Call by the Grave is a must. 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More for blowing through our opponent's board and just wrecking it all, hoping your opponent can't reset up, and then going for game from there. You can switch this out for other board, I guess, clearers, like Regeki, things like that, or you can play different hand traps in the deck. There's a whole different much ways you can kind of run with this. I've gone for the Dark Ruler, however, this does backfire when you get FTK'd, doesn't it? And then, of course, we have 1 copy of 9 Pillars of the Yangzing rounding out the main deck. We are playing a Yangzing package, but we are not playing the little ones, because we have other things we can do. Okay, and now we have the extra deck. So, of course, card that I mentioned I like to make a lot, Transcendosaurus Gigantozala. Is it Gigantozala? Gigantozala, yeah, I got that right. Hopefully I said that all right. Yeah, I said that right. This card just floating back every turn, getting you some pops in your opponents and getting adds back is probably the most helpful card you can have in the grind game, especially in this build, because once you burn out from what's in your hand and if your opponent clears a lot of your board, you are going to struggle to kill your opponent on the following turn, and Gigantozala does that in spades. We then have our Xyz line, so we've got 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, along with 1 Dolkar and 1 Lagia, just different flexes for different matchups. I'm not playing the 6 because I don't actually have a way to make the 6. I'm only playing 1/6. Makes things difficult if you have it in your extra deck, so I've cut that completely, which did kind of facilitate some other things to help out in other ways. We then have our Synchro line, so we've got 1 Denglong and 1 Chaofeng. So Denglong search the trap, you go into the Chaofeng then floodgates your opponent out of lights. If you're playing against a light deck, you just kind of win from there. But if you do need to, you can use the counter trap on the Chaofeng. Then you search all the hand traps. That's the reason why we're playing this package. So you use the negate, you get rid of the Chaofeng. Chaofeng searches you Ash, Ogre, and the Ghost Bell. So it just gives you flex for your different matchups. It made a lot of sense as to why I'm playing it, and there are certain matchups that this will just beat. We then have our rest of our Synchro lines. Got the 1 copy of Savage. 1 copy of Che Ying, and 1 copy of Baron de Fleur. This is, of course, the 10 that you make when you're locked into Worms, Dragons, and Dinos. So you can't make Baron, you make this, and you can hopefully kind of swing from there for game. The Savage, a negate, Baron, a negate. You can make them. There's a big board that you can kind of make in this build where you have to choose between whether or not you get the Savage route or the Baron route, and it's actually quite fun to mess around with and go with. Normally I'll go with the Baron, but there are times when I might worry about having to have negates on multiple turns, so the Savage is a better way to go. We then have our Link monsters after this, so we've got 1 copy of Anima. It is our Link 1 of choice. I've cut the Link Karibo in favor of this because it comes up so much more, and I find that in the Denglong build, it's very rare that you're ever actually going into the Link Karibo, because you'd rather just have the one on board to go into the Denglong with the Scrap Raptor. So Anima as an offensive weapon was just a better choice. For the Link 2s, we've got Scrap Wyvern for the Scrap package, Cross Sheep, because there are some cute things you can do, of course, with the Fusion on the Cross Sheep, and then you can max out your board. Then we have 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. This is the 15th card in the extra deck. You can cut it. The reason it's in the deck, though, is because we are playing the access code, and I wanted to have a 3 to transition through till. And then we have Appaloosa for your opening board. There are a lot of times where you don't actually make this, and you rather just leave the Scrap Wyvern on board, go into like Baron, UCT, and one of the rank 4s. At which point the Appaloosa doesn't really come up that much. It's in the ways when you go into the Savage, though, you link that off and you go into Appaloosa, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But that does wrap us up here for the deck profile for this one, as always. So if you would make any changes or things like that, do make sure to comment them down below, as always. If you're playing a blind second build, I guess what are you mainly looking to put into yours? I guess most people normally cut the Scrap package, they cut the Diagram package and things like that, and then they kind of go ham with all the different blind board clearers and things like that. Randomly, FTKs have started showing up again for certain decks, so you know, playing mass board removal sometimes has been backfiring for us, so it's the reason why we're going for just a pure go first. We got a couple of interactions to go from there. Yeah, I might stay on this for WCQ. I'm not 100% sure yet. A bit more testing will kind of get me into it. I think the biggest thing that I've been finding as an issue is that if you do get your board like cleared to Dark Ruler, which you can negate, but then you kind of walk into a Regeki. I think at one point I've been like Dark Ruler, Regeki, even lead, and then just been like, I'm still not losing this game, but I don't have any way to kill you anymore. That's been my biggest problem. If you have a solution for that, comment that down below as well. But as always, I've been Ben from NolanTCG, and have a good afternoon, everybody.